So welcome to Informational Interviewing with me, Shari. That's me right here. And we are going to have so much fun today. Just have to talk about a couple things. Oh, I want to put on give me a minute. I want to remember to put on, there we go. I put closed captioning on in case anybody needs that. If it's not working correctly, let me know. I tend to talk faster than the closed captioning piece. So just know that. Okay, so today, this webinar is presented to you by Amalavita. What Amalavita is a coaching company that helps you love your life. That's what our name means. We coach across career, which is where today falls in, health and wellness, life, and leadership coaching. Give you tools and skills to make sure that you are loving what you're doing and how you're doing it. So this is just another little piece that you could put in your toolbox to make sure that you're doing this. This is me. I'm a career and leadership coach here. And that means I coach both personal coaching and executive coaching with corporations. Okay. Today's agenda, which is what are we going to do today? So what we're going to first do is talk about what is an informational interview. How do I do this? Now that I've done it, what do I do with this information? What does success look like? And then Q&A at the end. I'm going to now tell you Q&A at the end for me looks very different than Q&A at the end for anybody else. Q&A for me can happen throughout the entire presentation. So if you have a question and you want it answered, unmute, wave your arms, say, hey, Shari, I want to ask you a question. For me, I like to view this as we're just hanging together. We're going to talk about some stuff. And I want you to get the answers that you need in real time. Sometimes if you wait till the end, you forgot what you wanted. It doesn't feel as relevant. So please feel free to unmute. Because it's really no fun for me to just talk to some boxes. So I'm happy to have you unmute so we can chat. Okay, first thing is, what is an informational interview? Right? What is this thing that we call an informational interview? An informational interview is a way that you can get information about a job, a role, without having to go on a formal interview. And the easiest way to always do that is to ask questions, right? That's how you get your answers, is to ask questions. So informational interview is a very informal way that you can speak with a professional who can give you insight into a new industry, a new field, a type of job, even just culture for a company, different cultures. So biggest part of that is informational interviewing is all about asking the right person the right questions. I'm sorry, sketched too much over and hit my thing there. Is asking the right person the right questions. What it's not is asking for a job. And this is where people get very confused because they hear the word interview. Informational interview is exactly what those two words mean. It's interviewing for information. It can often lead to a job or an interview or a connection, but it's not all about just getting the job. I want to be really clear on that. It's not about getting the job. You choose the questions because you're the one who knows the stuff. So that's one of the differences between informational interviewing and interviewing for a job. Why not? Why can't this be me just asking for a job? Probably saying to yourself already, if I'm not asking for the job, then what is the point in this whole thing for me? Well, the point is, you're building a relationship and a rapport with somebody who's in your space and who you may be able to get some information from that's not available online. That's one of the keys here. A lot of times people are like, well, information, I can just get that off the website. Yes, you can. And you should use that information to help formulate how you want to have your informational interview. But that's not the point. The point here is you're getting an insider look. Again, role, field, company, new fields of study, seeing it through someone else's lens, as opposed to just what you're able to see online or hearsay. It can give you a true day in the life perspective, which is hugely important if you're career transitioning. I think I might want to do this, and all my research says I want to do this, but I actually don't know anyone who does this. Having an informational interview gives you that insight to what a day in the life looks and feels like. Begins to have you start making connections with people in that space and building relationships. It also takes away the stress of, for you, I need this job or I want this role, but it also takes the stress off the person who you're with for thinking that, oh, I have to evaluate them for a job. So in that case, when your stress levels decrease, typically you'll be more friendly and more receptive to getting information. All right, I'm on board. Tell me, how do I do this thing? You start with, what do I want to know? What do I want to know? Because getting the right informational interview with the right people is the key. And this requires time and effort. So I don't want you to think you just look up somebody, reach out and say, hey, I want to talk to you. And they say, okay. So the first thing that we want to do is, what do you want to know? You start here, you make a general list of all the stuff you want to know, what's important to you, down to the detail of what you want to know. Is it culture? Is it skill? Is it role? Is it day in the life perspective? Just a general running list. Don't worry about your questions. You're just compiling this list because this will help you determine, who is it that I want to speak to? Knowing what you want to talk about or what information you want to gather helps you determine who has this information. And that's the next step, right? Who has this information? This is the networking piece. You're going to want to start with all of your networks, your close network, your family network, your expanded network. We forget in today's time, especially because we've spent 2.5 years inside and behind a screen, that we still have a network past LinkedIn. And you want to consider that. Who do your friends know? Not your friends on LinkedIn, not your Facebook friends, not your followers, although those count too, but who do your friends know? Where do they work? Where do their parents work? Where do their kids work? If you're a parent and you have a kid who's on a sport team, where do the other parents work? Those straight local networks for you, start there. Who do you know? Then you go to your expanded networks. Who do they know? Because remember, just because you may know them through a specific space, they may have other connections. Just because you only know somebody, let's say from the soccer field, that person probably has a job, probably not in soccer, but you know them and they may know people. So that next piece is, who do I know? And then who do I know they know? And then what is on my LinkedIn? Who knows who on my LinkedIn? The reverse of that is, here's who I want to know. Now look back and see, do you have any connections? Is there anyone you can speak to? Google and LinkedIn tend to be your best friends in that space because you can play with different words and phrases in their search bars that give you that information. Go back to your alumni groups. Go back to your career services if you went to school. See who's there. Is there a local networking group? Don't diminish the importance of a meetup. Or if you ride Peloton, there's a bazillion people on your ride. And there's people to know. So the next step is figuring out who is the person that has this information that I want to get. then it's reach out. Make it sound so easy. I understand that it's not. Once you've identified who you want to speak to, and you've identified who knows that person, or if you know that person, if it's a connection of a connection, ask for an introduction. Hey, really want to talk to Sam. I see you're connected with Sam on LinkedIn. Your son plays soccer with Sam's child. Can you connect me to Sam? Be very clear with what you want. I always liken this to the recipe blogs online. I don't know if anyone else here reads them. I do, right? And you start with, you see the picture, you want to make whatever that cool oozy chocolate dessert is. You start scrolling because you can't wait to get to the recipe, and you're stuck with, it's Tuesday, it's raining. I was born 14 years ago. My dad, I just want the recipe. Same thing here. Nobody wants to read your recipe blog story. So be clear about what you want. Be transparent. Say what you're there for. They don't need all of the context. It's minimal context. How do I know you, and what do I want from you? Manners count. I'm going to say that about 500 times in this small little webinar. It's amazing how much more we get when we're kind. Please, thank you. I appreciate you taking your time. I'm not suggesting that you gush. I don't know that gushing helps, but manners count. And that's an important thing. So you do that outreach. You're going to either get a response or you're not. And that's okay. Understand that you're not going to get a response every time. If you get a response one time, that's all you need. You just need the right person to give you that opportunity. And people tend to be more giving when they're not pressured that you want to ask for the job. Listen, I just want some of your time. I need to understand who you are, what's going on with you. People like to do that. They like to be the center of attention. They like to give their feedback. So now you've got the right person. Yeah, now what? Right? Because we're all thinking, all right, well, I already did the hard work. I did the networking that I didn't want to do. I did the outreach that felt uncomfortable. Can't they just send me some information? Nope. No, they can't. They absolutely cannot. Because now you first have to reach out part two, right? You've now had the introduction. Now you actually have to reach out to said person. Same thing applies here. Friendly and professional. Be clear about what you're looking for from them, and your manners still count. So when you're outreaching now to the person that you've reached, same thing, no recipe blog, just, hey, Sam said I could reach out to you to talk about your path and how you got to the position that you're in. Would love to ask you a few questions via Zoom. It would take about 30 minutes. Would appreciate your time. Let me know what works for you. 6 sentences. Always aim for what I'm considering the best way to have this informational interview, which would be face-to-face, Zoom being a close second. That gives you a place to negotiate down if you get, oh, I'm sorry, I can't meet with you. Can I call you? Can I send you an email? Anything to make it easy and convenient for the person who you're asking help from. Again, not pretending it's easy, but it does follow a formula. So again, where do I do this? Well, your very best choice is face-to-face. If it's person-to-person or Zoom, that's still considered a face-to-face interaction. That's always your best bet. You can read body language. You can have a little bit more inflection. You can see what's going on. Plus, you have that person's attention. And we listen best and most actively when we're paying attention to what's being said to us, as well as if someone's talking to us. So you all have your a good amount of you have your cameras off. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're listening, maybe you're not, maybe you're eating lunch, maybe you're doing other work. And that's all fine. But if I'm trying to get information from you and I'm talking to a black box, I don't feel like you're engaged. The flip side of that is if I'm the one giving you my time and you keep your camera off or you're doing 400 other things, I don't feel like maybe you really want my input. Maybe you don't really want to know what I have to say. So that's always your best bet. But if you can't, it's better doing it a few other ways than having no informational interview. So for me, second choice down is phone. Can I have a phone conversation with you? Again, same reason. You can hear voice, you can hear inflection. You can typically tell if someone's a little distracted when they're on the phone. So good time if you could do it on the phone. Last choice is an email. But again, better to have it by email than to not have this person's attention. So if you can grab them by email, hey, no, I know you don't have time. Is it okay if I send you over a couple of questions? In which case, you're going to have to be really clear about what the questions are that you want to be asking, where you have a little bit more flexibility when you're face-to-face. All right, now we're going to work on our questions, right? Now we're going to figure out what those are. It starts, you take that whole big list, and you want to aim for 3 to 5 key questions. I'm going to stop right here because someone put something in the chat, so I don't want it to go away before I answer it. Shari, you mentioned that we may not get a response when reaching out, say sending reach out emails or LinkedIn messages. Any tips on how not to take this as a step back and keep moving forward? Sometimes I consider following up, but don't want to be pushy. Okay, I hope I'm saying your name right. Hiju. Great question, and I thank you for asking it, because I'm going to say out of everybody on this call, with the exception of like 3 people, they have the same question. So, rule of thumb, and this is why we work with our networks first. So let's start with hot lead all the way to cold lead to talk about this issue. A hot lead is you know somebody, straight up. So when you reach out there, you don't have that awkwardness. You can follow up multiple times without feeling pushy because you already know this person. So obviously that's the best part you want to be in. Warm lead is your second choice. Warm lead is somebody you know knows this person who can introduce you. In that case, you can also continue to follow up. My rule of thumb is 3 strikes, you're out, unless you know something else about this person. So 7 to 10 days before each outreach, varying the way you outreach. So if you've reached out by LinkedIn and you haven't gotten an answer, see if you can get them at their company. See if you have a phone number. See if you know what their email is. If you know them through somebody, this gives you the opportunity to reach back out to that person. Hey, remember you connected me with Sam? I haven't heard back. Do you know what's going on? That gives the opportunity for you to get information straight there. Oh, on vacation. Oh, busy time at work. Always takes them at least 3 to 4 weeks to get back to you. So then you have to frame it through that lens. So those are your easiest spaces. Your less easiest spaces are cool or cold outreach type leads. Cool is you were able to get to this person through someone else. Maybe it was a distant LinkedIn, or maybe it was a distant or a friend of a friend. Hey, I know somebody. There also, 3 times you're out, 7 to 10 days before outreaches. But after that, you can be done. And how you don't view it as a setback, and I am not pretending this is easy. It is not. And it's hard not to frame it as a setback. You just keep going, because you will find a person to connect with, and you will be able to streamline your own system, find what's effective for you, find what's comfortable for you in your outreaches. Where are you seeing the better results? Is it through your friends? Is it through your LinkedIn network? Is it through having joined a group? Is it through the guys that are in this group with you over here that have nothing to do with work? Is it you'll find where you're getting your results? Do you need to join a group through LinkedIn? Do you need to join a meetup? Are you pursuing a hobby that you're going to in a class? So you'll find where you're getting your traction, and that will end up being a space that you'll end up working more and more. Same thing for cold outreaches. Cold outreaches, it's tough because you're trying to get someone to pay attention to you. This is where your LinkedIn comes in, tremendous amount of handiness. So any of you who are not working your LinkedIn, if you have a coach at Ama La Vida, please ask them to work with you on your LinkedIn. We have some LinkedIn specialists. If not, go to our YouTube channel and our blogs. Myself and John Raccia are LinkedIn experts, and we have how to leverage your LinkedIn, how to get that set up, how to utilize your groups, how to engage to build up some rapport with people. And then that plays into this part, which is how to find that right person, how to engage with them, and how to start getting some responses. In terms of, again, about reframing that, it's so hard, but what it helps to do is say, I'm still moving forward. This is still X amount more outreaches than I made last week. This is 4 more people that I've identified that I think are the right people for me to chat with. These are 3 other questions that I had never come up with that have now been of more interest to me. And again, let's not diminish the value of now knowing what you don't want. Wow, I did more research on this particular individual and this doesn't appeal to me. Or wow, when I was doing my research on this, I found this website and didn't resonate. So there's value on both sides of that. Any other questions on that before I go into coming up with the questions? Did I answer your question? Does anyone else have any follow-ups?
I have a question, but in a different area.
Great, ask away.
Hi, Shari. Thanks for doing this. I'm career transitioning, going into analytics. I have the certificates. So I do know the education side, or not the I have the learning, but I am not as confident when it comes to knowing what the job entails. And analytic is so broad that it's hard to know exactly what you're walking into. So that's another reason why I am doing a lot of networking. So 2 questions. One, when I meet with them, they're great and wanting to help, but they throw out so many more things that I don't have that I still need to learn, which means that I'm struggling and overwhelmed right after the conversation.
Yes.
And then secondly, you pair up with somebody, again, they mean well, but they look like they're bored and you're not connecting. Do you then end the call and thank them and ask for another referral to someone else? Or how do you salvage that type of communication? If that makes any sense. Thank you.
It makes perfect sense. What I'm going to do is ask you to hold those 2 questions, because in the next 3 or 4 slides, I'm covering some of that. If I don't answer your question thoroughly enough after that, unmute, come right back on and say to me, yes, but, or yes, and I will go into it more.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm going to talk to exactly those things in the next few slides.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other questions before I go forward with how to formulate some of these questions? I think I just saw something come up in the chat. Give me a moment. Today, tactical reach out questions. How can we send a message to someone via LinkedIn if we are not connected and you don't have a LinkedIn premium? When I send a connection request, there's an option to write a short message. Can the person see the message before or after they accept the connection request? Also, excellent question. Yes, they will see the note when you send a connection request. I think it should be a law that you send a note with every connection request. I personally will not even accept a LinkedIn if it doesn't have a note, unless I know it was coming. So yes, always send the note. LinkedIn Premium is a personal feeling. Determine what you're using your LinkedIn for, and that will help determine whether you need or want to play with LinkedIn Premium. There are benefits, but again, it's what are you using it for? So it might be a good idea to turn it on during this time frame if you're transitioning or you want to do a decent amount of networking and you want that in-mail access. But otherwise, if it's a cold outreach, sometimes you don't even have to connect. You can send a message without connecting, or you can send that connection request with the note. I'm also a fan of finding a different way in, asking for an introduction, finding out if they're part of a club that you can get their contact information from, calling the company directly, seeing if online in the website, if they have their contact information, do they tweet? You know, where else are they visible? And the reason why I say that is think about how many of us are using LinkedIn on an everyday basis right now. I would say if you're looking for a job, over 90% of hiring people are looking on LinkedIn. And the hiring managers are checking your stuff on LinkedIn. So it's a crowded space. Again, I use it every day and I think you should use it. But if you're not getting the results you want, how else can you reach said person? And that's why I say start with your familiar networks first and then roll out. Are they looking on Indeed as well? Charmaine, I don't actually know the answer to that. That's a great question. Is there anyone on the call who might be able to help answer that who's in an HR spot, who might be able to lend some interest? I know Indeed is not the favored, despite what their commercials say, is not the favored platform. Most hiring managers are using LinkedIn over and above almost everything else because it's your one-stop shop. You know, I use Indeed sometimes for job search with clients, but I don't know if the hiring manager is spending their time there. So if there is anyone here who knows that answer, please put it in the chat, come off mute.
I can chime in really quickly.
That'd be great.
I recently did a hiring kind of speed dating type of thing
Right.
with Indeed, and the Indeed has a separate platform for employers. So they see something, employers see something different than what you see as a job searcher on Indeed, and they do use it to recruit. So
Okay.
if there's a blast for a particular company and they want to hire for 7 or 8 different positions, the backside of Indeed will give all those things to the employer along with the applicant's resume if they have it on Indeed. It's not the best looking resume because it's the Indeed version, so I don't like it, but the Indeed will actually give those things to the employer to see if they're compatible with the job. So if an employer does decide to work with Indeed, there's a separate platform that the employers use that we don't see as job seekers, but it does help.
Awesome. Thank you for letting us know that. And just so everyone on the call knows, LinkedIn has that same feature. I think most of them do. They have that back-end recruiting feature where you have to meet a certain criteria to be able to be logged into that space to do those back-end searches. Haley put in the chat that she worked for a recruiting firm and they only used LinkedIn. I think it's your premier spot right now, but again, find what works for you. I don't get paid by Indeed or LinkedIn or any of the platforms, so I don't have any affinity other than I try to go with what's best practices at the time. Like, understand, when I first started, this Monster was the best platform to use, and we've changed substantially. So you have to find what works for you because sometimes it's also field specific. I see, Charmaine, you're asking about flex jobs. I personally love flex jobs, but that doesn't work for someone who's looking for a full-time type position. But for people who want to live in that flex job space or that contract world, that's a great spot. But those are more job search pieces more than informational interviewing pieces, just to give you a sense. Okay. In talking about putting your questions together, you now have that long list that we created at the beginning. I said just have that general list of stuff and you put it all in there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take that, put it next to what you know about this person the company they're representing, the role you're looking for information for, the stuff. And you want to aim for 3 to 5 key questions that are going to maximize the information that you're getting from them. Important that you ask open-ended questions. If you don't know what an open-ended question is, it's a question that cannot be answered with a yes or no. So for example, you are not going to say, do you like your job? Because they're going to say, uh-huh. And now you've ended your conversation. So instead, you want to ask something that gives them the opportunity to play with their narrative. So, what's your favorite thing about your job? It's not a yes or no question. You also want to make sure that you're staying relevant. One of the worst things is somebody gives you their time and you ask them something that you easily could have found out about on LinkedIn, on the website, any Google search. Like, so what do you do here? That is not showing how you have made any initiative to move forward in actually getting this information. So here's some examples of questions that you could ask of somebody when you are trying to get information from them. And these are general. Obviously, the ones for you may change depending on what the field is and what you are looking to know. But again, think about, these are open-ended. You can't answer them with a yes or no. They're giving you more depth than something you could look up on a website. What does your typical day look like? Explain some challenges you face in this position. What do you like about your job? What would you change about your job? What was your path to get here? If you could tell yourself something when you were coming up into this position, what do you wish you would have done? Any of those things that allows the person who you're interviewing to take control of their narrative and give you information is the kinds of questions that you want to ask. So in addition to those 3 to 5 questions that you're asking, every single, let me say that again, every single informational interview ends with these 2 questions. Who else do you think I should speak to? And can you connect me with them? No matter what else you ask, these are your last 2. So basing it on a 30-minute time slot that you're getting, you're going to have your 3 to 5 key questions plus these 2. If you get 15 minutes, your 2 questions plus these 2. The reason why these 2 questions are important are you're showing that you have enthusiasm and engagement in this space. You want to continue to build your knowledge in this space, whatever that space is. Change of job, change of role, change of industry, change of company, field of study. It almost doesn't matter. Who else should I speak to speaks volumes to where you are in your space. That next question of, and can you connect me, is extending your network, making the first part of this easier and easier each time you do it, because now you're expanding your network, which is also super important for job search. If this is, again, are you asking for a job? Not particularly or not directly, but we're starting to build our network to get information to make our job searches easier and more effective. All right, so what is, how can I make sure that what I'm doing is very successful here? Because look, at the end of the day, if we're putting in all of this effort, we want to make sure we're getting what we need from this, right? For sure, we want to make sure that we're getting what we need. So before the interview, you want to research the person, because again, you don't want to ask anything that's completely findable. That's wasting your time and their time, and you're not really getting any information that you need. So you want to make sure that you're getting your information so you can create those questions. Second of all, you want to confirm. What type of meeting is it? How long will it last? Again, that clear communication is huge. Practice. I could have the next 75 slides just have the word practice on them. Practicing makes you comfortable. Part of the value of informational interviewing is it's informal. It's a conversation. You're not looking for a job to try to impress them. They're not trying to figure out if you're the right fit. So it can be that nice two-way conversation. But if you're nervous and you don't have your content down of what's important to you, you lose that value from that. So practice, 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 practice saying your questions out loud. Feel comfortable with how they sound for you. Do they feel comfortable in your mouth? Are you asking something that, as you're saying it out loud, doesn't sound right? And practice out loud is the key. Because when we do things in our head, they're always right. Always. We never stumble over a word. We always pronounce it correctly. We're totally comfortable saying it. Say it out loud and see how it feels. And then you want to make sure that you're prepared. What does that mean? You want to be prepared. Obviously, I just said you want to practice, practice, practice. If you're doing it on Zoom, is Zoom downloaded? Do you have the right platform? Is your background looking okay? What do you look like from here up? If you're meeting in person, are you dressed appropriately based upon what you know about the company? Do you know how to get there? Make sure you do. Because again, we're going back to manners count. You don't want to keep people waiting. If you're doing it on Zoom and you want to take notes, ask. Is it okay with you if I take notes while we speak? When you're in person, it's a little different. You usually have a notebook, or if you want to bring a laptop at that point, again, same thing, just ask permission, make sure that that's okay. During the time that you're there, this is important. Be respectful. That means if you're coming in person, you're getting there early. You're not annoyed. You're not doom scrolling on your phone that you have to wait for them to meet you. If it's Zoom, you get on 2 or 3 minutes ahead of time so that you're ready. If you sit in their waiting room, that's okay. You just want to be respectful of the fact that they are giving you your time. You don't have to slobber. We don't have to gush. You just want to be respectful. Restate what you're there for. And this becomes very important because, again, go back to that recipe blog. Tell them what you're looking for from them. Because, again, that shows that you're being respectful of the time that they're giving you. You're prepared. You know what you want from this. You're not just saying, hey, thanks for seeing me. So tell me about it. You're coming in with something. Really important. I probably should put this in caps. Listen. Listen, listen, listen. You are there to get information from this person. So you want to make sure that you're actually listening to what they're telling you. Ask if you can keep in touch. So just like those 2 questions at the end of who else should I speak to and can you connect me? Hey, do you mind if I keep in touch with you? Can I follow you on social media? Do you mind if I reach out again in a month? Maybe we could get together. Anything that allows you to start to build that relationship is what's important. But you want to ask. You don't make assumptions. Lastly, thank them for their time. Always be appreciative of their time. And that's just while you're in the moment with them. After, you want to go back to the answers and say, okay, what did I learn? What did I learn here? Did I get the information that I was looking for? Does it align with what I've set up for my roadmap? Was this useful for me? Did it inform some decisions? Do I need more decisions, more information to make these decisions? Did I ask the right questions? And then always, again, that follow-up thank you note. So you thank them for their time in person or on the phone or via email, but now that's the follow-up. Hey, really appreciate your time. Really, it was helpful to me. Reference something from the conversation. Build something in there that you can follow up with again, because that's, again, how you build that rapport. Okay, bonus tips for you. Trying to go the extra mile. If you're meeting them in person, offer to bring a cup of coffee or a hot beverage or bring a snack. See if there's an opportunity you can be involved with. Does their organization have volunteer time? Is there something that they're trying to blast on social media? You know, offer to boost that signal for them. Anything that you want to do in that space. If there's something that has a shared interest for you that came up during your time chatting, use that as a follow-up. Hey, I remembered you mentioned, you know, you really like hockey, and you're a Ranger fan. Wow, tough loss last night. You know, opportunities to engage again shows that you were paying attention and that you are in this with them. Then there's a big question, right? Can I ask for the job now? Because really, at the end of the day, we want a job. So that's like a yes and a no, which is not an answer that people like, and I understand that. If you've developed that rapport and that casual relationship, it is okay to ask if they know of opportunities. If you see an opportunity, you can then reach out. You can ask for job guidance and support. Right? Hey, really enjoyed our time together these last 3 or 4 times we've had conversations, which I'm really looking to get in this field, especially after our conversations. Could you take a look at my resume and see if you can identify any gaps? Again, clear about what you want, but you've developed a relationship in that you're not asking for something that's such a heavy ask. If you've developed, not if, sometimes when you develop this rapport and this relationship, you might not have to ask for the job. It may come to you. Person may say to you, hey, saw this come up. I think you would be a good candidate. Can I introduce you? Can I have your resume to forward? And that's the best way. If you do want to ask, here's some quick ways that you can ask. And for those of you who are asking if there were slides out afterward, this one's a good one to screenshot if you want. Because these are easy ways to reach out. I'm interested in applying for the role. It's at your company. Do you know anything about it? Can you connect me with somebody? Is there an employee referral program? Should you walk me in? Hey, I know you mentioned that you work really closely with this department. You know me, I've seen this. Do you think I'm a good fit in there? Can you refer me? So those are ways that you then can make this into that looking for a job piece. Remember, manners count. Always, 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 always. It's just kindness and appreciation go a very, very long way. All right, we didn't have a lot of questions within. And believe it or not, we are actually at the end of the information. So any questions that you may have, I'm going to stop sharing and then we'll answer some questions. I want to tell you a little bit about how ALV can work for you in terms of taking some of these skills and pushing them a little further. But first, I'm going to stop sharing so we can all be together. Hi, everybody again. Now I can see you all. Any questions? Let's do that first. Does anybody have any questions?
We've talked a lot about reaching out to people we might not know. Can you help establish a connection? Do you have any advice for talking to friends, people who you're familiar with, family, but in a totally different avenue? Like now you want to talk to them about job, career. Like, is there a way to kind of like introduce a new way of having a relationship with that person you already have a relationship with?
Libby, that is such a good question. And thank you for asking it, because I think people don't think of it that way. Right? They're like, oh, I know this person, I'm just going to go.
Mhm.
When you're trying to bridge that gap with a family member or someone you're close with, a friend, not dissimilar to how you outreach, but you want to be clear. The key in any of these outreaches, regardless of how you know them, is to be really clear with what you're asking. If it is a friend or a family member and that's just never been something you've talked about, the lead-in can be, hey, I know we've never talked about this before, but, or I know we've not, I know this hasn't been the foundation of our relationship, and hey, I happened to have run into Dan last week. Did he mention to you that I'm looking for a job? And like, whatever you can use to segue, it's okay to own that fact that that hasn't been part of your relationship.
Okay.
But now that you would like it to, again, no recipe blog needed. Right? You're like, hey, remember when you came to my 5th birthday and you fell in the ball pit? And we don't need any of that. It's okay to acknowledge that this wasn't what our relationship was, but I would like to leverage this part of your knowledge base. Again, very often people are willing to do, it's flattering. What? You want to talk to me about myself for 30 minutes? All right. Oh, and you're going to bring the coffee? Okay. When? Happy to do that. And some people aren't, but you will be surprised how many are willing. So that's why I approach it with family. And again, same thing here, almost as the networking. If you have a family member who you're close to, who's closer to that person, ask them to introduce you. Hey, I don't need you to actually formally introduce to cousin Tom, but I've never been able to talk to him or they about this, but they are working for one of my dream companies. Is there any way you could?
Yeah.
So you just go straight in that way with it. Anything else? Any other questions? Where's Paige? Paige, did I answer your question from earlier?
I'm still trying to process it, because if the other side is not as motivated and they sound bored in the process, it's really hard for me to get their attention back. Does that make sense?
Yes. I would look at what questions you're asking. My guess is that you're tending to ask questions with the information that's readily available. And that's a big reason why people will disengage, because they feel like I put time on my calendar for you. I made time to share my knowledge, and you're asking me stuff that's literally in my bio.
Oh, no. So they're not exactly in the role that I'm looking for. I'm just doing more of a career exploration. Okay. And asking about their job, and then trying to sort of have like a hobby or something of interest that we can relate, and then go into the conversation furthermore. But they just seem distant, I think is the better way to phrase it.
I'm going to go back to the types of questions that I think you're asking. I think you're spending too much time looking for a shared interest and how do I break into the conversation. The way culture works here, and this is another big part of this, is being culturally competent to what's going on. The pace in the United States, primarily for business, is quick, to the point. We don't need you to find a shared interest to then tell a story so that we can lean into the conversation. I have given you 30 minutes. Tell me what you need to know from me in an open, honest way that gives me the opportunity to tell you my story. And that could be why you're getting information that is a little bit more detailed than you were looking for, and you're coming away feeling disenfranchised or disengaged because you're not actually asking for what you want. You're leaving too much up for interpretation rather than being really clear with what you want. And again, not in the room with you, just guesstimating by what you're telling.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, if you are coming away feeling that disengaged, you also might not be finding the right people. So again, that analyzation part at the end when you're done with that is important to say, okay, did I get what I needed? Right? That's that first question. If you didn't get what you needed, Paige, then you're not either asking the right questions or seeing the right people. So go back to that first list of things of what do I want to know?
Mm-hmm.
And balance it out there. Sometimes you have to go really big and come small. And sometimes you have to start really small and then go big to find where your sweet spot is of getting what you need. It's like I said, I'm feeling like you're not asking for what you actually want, but trying to accommodate the person to the extent that you're losing the meat of why you're there and walking away feeling not very engaged or motivated to go to the next piece.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions before I do my little ALV spiel? Because, you know, this was free and you listened to it and now I can spiel a little bit. No questions? Okay. ALV provides coaching, again, at all these levels. What information I gave you today is not dissimilar to what coaches will do with you in a coaching session, but with a little bit more depth. And we have coaches that cross lots and lots of different platforms and different styles to help you realize what it is do I need, how do I get there, what makes sense. I'm going to drop in the chat, just bear with me because I took it out before. Jillian can attest. I actually made a point of pulling it and now I can't find it again. I'm going to throw in the chat a link to our consults. So if you wanted to meet with one of our relationship specialists, these are people who are trained to do intake with you, to talk with you for about a half an hour, see what your goals are, what your needs are, and align you with the right coach. That's free of charge. I happen to be one of the relationship specialists here as well as a coach, and I can tell you my colleagues do a fantastic job of aligning you with the right person to get you to your goal. So if you hit that link, you will be able to schedule a time to talk to one of the wonderful relationship specialists here. You might even get me. You could get me. It's not unheard of. Okay, what link did I just put in there now? Oh, I just put in I apologize. I don't usually do this part. I have a colleague who handles this. Our website, tons and tons and tons of free information, blogs, newsletter pieces, brochures that you can, ebooks, things that can really, really help you move forward with some of these other career questions you might have. Again, I think I mentioned earlier, John Raccia is our Director of Career Services, has done quite a bit of writing on LinkedIn. I have done writing on LinkedIn. Next link I threw up for you is our YouTube channel. Every one of these webinars that are given by a member of ALV staff is up there on our YouTube channel. Watch them over and over again. Figure out which ones are the best for you, which ones are answering questions that you want. There are wonderful, wonderful enhancements to also working with a coach. If you liked this and you want to see other webinars like this, check out our Eventbrite page, because that's where you see all of the events that we have here. I myself am doing one in the end of July. I'm doing a free coaching session online where instead of me giving you all this information, you can coach with me in little pieces on the screen. We can do live coaching. So join us there. I think topic is confidence, boosting your confidence in the workplace in July. So you can join me right back here in a month and we can do some live coaching. But we have other events coming up. All of our coaches are highly qualified, certified in their space, and it's a don't miss to take advantage of all of this free resource. Lastly, I'm going to put in my email and Justice's email. Justice is actually our sales manager here, and he runs the relationship strategist team, so you can always get in touch with him, but that's not his email. I lie. Let me put his correct email.
I just popped it in there for you.
Oh, you did? Oh, you're so good. Thank you. Thank you, Jillian. And there's my email, shari@alvcoaching.com. These emails go directly to us. We don't have a bot that answers for us, and they don't get all dumped into a space where someone else takes care of them. This is how you get me. I have clients on this call who can verify. If you do Shari at ALV Coaching, you get me. If you email me, it may take me 2 days to get back to you. And if I don't get back to you, send your question again to the top of my email. I'm happy to answer questions for you. I'm happy to tell you about what we do here, how we do it, how important it is that you love your life, and how we can help you do those things. So check out the YouTube, check out our socials. I didn't have links up here for our socials, but tons of content on our Instagram, our YouTube. I think we're starting a TikTok recently. Website, our LinkedIn. Hook up, share with the people who are on this call also, because these people are in the same space as you. So do that. Reach out if you have any questions. We are at time. Thank you for playing with me today. And hopefully I'll see some of you soon.